سمكتني ألفع كذا سمكتني أتفنن في الهدة حقتي.
What if your dream of a better life became a living nightmare?
Increased cases of mistreatment of women seeking jobs in the Middle East.
They are mentally tortured, psychologically.
This is the shocking reality for many Kenyans, including Diana Chepkemoi and Esther Wanjiku-Tuku.
It's been a year since Bernard Njenga and his wife Esther Tuku had died in Saudi Arabia, where she had been a domestic worker for 3 years.
Who traveled to Saudi Arabia in search of good jobs and brighter futures. Instead, they face abuse, exploitation, and isolation. Their hopes are crushed and their voices are silenced as we explore their heartbreaking stories.
I don't think there is a human rights in this world. No way. Maybe in Europe, but not in the Middle East.
We must face the sad and harsh truths about the struggles they endure far from home.
The cartel and unscrupulous agents who've been exporting labor to Saudi Arabia, most of them does not follow laid down procedures.
In the heart of Kenya, many young people dream of a better life. For Diana Chepkemoi, this dream took her far from home to the deserts of Saudi Arabia. A bright and determined young woman yearned for a brighter future. After deferring her food science and management studies at Meru University due to financial constraints, she saw an opportunity in Saudi Arabia to lift herself and her family out of poverty.
I left Kenya to go to Saudi Arabia just with the hope I'll get maybe a better life afterwards.
For Diana and her family, the stakes were incredibly high. Her mother, Clara Cherotich, had pinned her hopes on Diana's success abroad, believing it was the only way to afford her daughter's education. When Diana left, we were all hopeful. It was a tough decision, but we believed it was for the best. However, Diana's journey turned into a nightmare. In Saudi Arabia, she faced psychological and physical torment. Her health deteriorated rapidly, and she felt trapped in a foreign land with no support. People are tortured psychologically and physically. It was unbearable, and being told there's nothing you can do about it is devastating. Photos of an emaciated Diana surfaced on social media, sparking outrage and a wave of support from Kenyans online. Her family, along with concerned citizens, called for her immediate return. Thanks to the power of social media and the relentless efforts of her family and community, Diana was finally brought back home. Her arrival at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport was met with hugs, praise, and tears of joy. Diana's ordeal has shed light on the broader issue of mistreatment of Kenyan workers abroad.
But mine is just to say, if I can just be honest, mine was just a tip of the iceberg. Watu wanateseka, people are suffering there. My friends are suffering there. It's just that mine, nilipata that voice.
These are some of the scenes witnessed in recent days as a section of Kenyan women come out publicly to share their plight working in the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia.
Mali tupo sahi tuko Saudi Arabia, Riyadh.
Kwa ofisi tukaletwa accommodation, tumekaa accommodation miezi 3, wengine miezi 4, hakuna chakula, hakuna
maji, tumefungiwa.
Unaitisha chakula unapigwa, kama vile na mwenzetu hapa amepigwa.
Hakuna sanitary towels, sabuni hakuna, tunaoga maji tupu, wengine wanakohoa, hakuna dawa.
Hurumia kinda kufa njaa. Wote Mkenya wote ananiseva kianiseva na shida. Akini kupata nguvu sina. Mtu yote ananisaidia, Mkenya wote ananisaidia.
Jamila! Gun! Go! La enti name. Enti kala shagab. Amam enti sawun amam nadif, salla nadif, kullu bayt nadif. Gumi, yalla, gumi. Gumi.
Centuries ago, Islamic countries created something called the kafala system. The kafala system was established as a way to protect foreign workers who didn't understand the country's laws or customs. Under the kafala system, every single migrant worker that came to Qatar needed a sponsor. The sponsor could be a private company that needs cheap labor, for example. The sponsor would be responsible for applying for visas, making sure their employees didn't break any of the country's laws, etc. On the surface, the kafala system made sense. Islamic countries have very strict rules that also apply to foreigners. Sponsors could help foreign workers with their visas and legal status because they were familiar with the language and understood all these nuances. But over the years, it morphed into something else completely. The kafala system was covered in depth, including how other Gulf countries abused it.
وادخل يدي هنا في وذا المصري يطول عمره السلامه ما حسبته وكل يوم يجيني عاوز فلوس ما عندي كذا عندي الفلوس بس كذا مصري عاوز فلوس والمصري ده ضعيف وانا قدري ما شاء الله.
To get a Qatari sponsor, workers would have to join a recruitment agency and pay a recruitment fee, often in the thousands of dollars. These poor Kenyans can't afford this. That's why they're trying to get a job. What usually ends up happening is that they end up shackling themselves in debt to get recruited to work abroad. First, they have to pay recruitment fees, which are illegal but routine. In Kenya, it can cost workers $1,500 to get a job in Saudi Arabia. This can mean going deeper into debt before actually making any money. Some borrowed money from local lenders that charged them high interest rates. Once recruited, they would be matched with a business in Saudi Arabia that needed their labor. And that is where things got messy.
2.8 million women work as maids in the Middle East. Many have their passports confiscated on arrival.
This was supposedly for safekeeping, but in reality, confiscating their passports was a great way to make sure they could never leave.
The kafala system is modern-day slavery. There's no two ways about it.
They don't know the language, they don't have any friends there, and they can't go to a lawyer and sue. If you take away their passport, their ticket to freedom, they're going to be stuck working for you for life. From there, things just got uglier. If they wanted their passport back, they would have to do whatever the sponsor forced them to. Basically, the workers became the property of the sponsor. If they didn't do what the sponsor said, they could be deported back to their country without being paid a cent. Deportation is another possibility for those who complain about their working conditions or lack of pay. The Diana story is not the only mistreatment. There are many cases where Kenyan workers are being mistreated in other countries. Esther Wanjiku Tuku, a loving mother from Thika in Kiambu County, left for Saudi Arabia in June 2019. She went there with hopes and dreams of providing a better life for her children. She took a job as a domestic manager and often called her family.
Jana nilitumiwa picha zenyu na voice record and I was very happy.
Sharing stories of her new life and assuring them that she was doing well. But everything changed in January 2021. Her family tried calling her, but there was no answer. Days turned into weeks, and their worry grew into fear. In February, desperate for answers, they contacted Esther's employer. The news was shocking. Esther no longer worked there. She had left in January. The family's concern deepened. They reached out to the agents who had arranged Esther's job. The agents first claimed that Esther had returned to Kenya, but her family knew this was not true. After more pressing, the agents admitted they didn't know where she was, but sent a voice recording confirming Esther was still in Saudi Arabia. Months passed with no word from Esther. On May 18th, in a final desperate attempt, the family posted about her disappearance on social media. hoping someone working in Saudi Arabia might know something. The very next day, they received a heart-wrenching call from Saudi's Ministry of Home Affairs. Esther had died on February 28, 2021. The news left her family in shock and deep sorrow. They had lost a beloved mother, a sister, a daughter, and were left with unanswered questions about her final days.
The Commission on Administrative Justice wants the President to form a multi-agency team to address gaps in the existing labor policies on recruitment and management of Kenyan migrant domestic workers in Saudi Arabia.
These are our workers taken to Saudi Arabia.
Imagine this. Thousands of Kenyan workers full of hope travel to Saudi Arabia or the Middle East seeking better opportunities. But what happens when dreams clash with harsh realities? To safeguard their citizens, the Kenyan government has rolled out robust measures to protect its workers in the Middle East. From striking crucial bilateral labor agreements that secure fair treatment for domestic workers to setting up immediate distress reporting mechanisms like a toll-free helpline and web portal, Kenya is not holding back. They've even established safe houses in the Gulf for those in urgent need of shelter and launched continuous oversight and monitoring initiatives to keep recruitment agencies in check. But that's not all. The government is pushing for key policy and legal reforms to create a solid legal framework that ensures the safety and rights of these migrant workers. Despite these steps, challenges remain, and critics are calling for even stronger actions, such as enhanced government collaborations and consular support.